Good morning. So let's take a few minutes today to just sit in silence. And while we're sitting in that silence, experience what it would be like to just stop. Just play with this whole notion of just stopping. One of the most profound teachings I've ever had the pleasure of encountering was by a woman named Gangaji in Hawaii. Her teaching was very simple. It's just one single word. However, in that one word was a universe of authority and power. It had the ability to cut through the ego or self like a sharp sword through butter. Her one-word teaching was simple. It was just simply stop. And when my mind got confused and tried to search the directions or the ways of how to, she'd simply look at me and say, just stop. So in loving memory, the name of this meditation is Just Stop. Okay, so let's begin. Find a way of sitting so that you're totally comfortable. And I say sitting because when a person lays down, their natural inclination is to fall asleep. And although sleeping is not a bad thing, where true meditation is concerned, you'll miss the value of what this practice has to offer if you spend your few minutes of presence in sleep. So sit in such a way that you can hold the posture for the next 10, 15 minutes or so you don't have an uncomfortable body that's drawing all your attention away from the practice of just stopping. Let's begin by taking a few deep surrender breaths. And what I mean by surrender breath is, if surrender has a look and a soundtrack, it would be sitting in meditative posture with your palms up, your feet firmly planted on the floor, a little smile on your face. You'd take a big deep breath in. You'd exhale with a big big sound of relaxation. So take another deep breath. Let's do this again. And this time, if there's any tension in your body that you're holding on to, just let it go when you exhale, when you let that big surrender breath go. So take a deep breath in. Okay, and one last time. Inhaling a nice deep breath, filling up your entire lungs, your diaphragm, letting out that nice, big, sweet sound of surrender. Okay, now, from this space, feel what it feels like to just be present in your body from this state of relaxation. Feel your feet on the ground, feel your butt on the chair, the weight of your relaxed arms, the absence of tension in your jaw or face. Feel the sun or the wind, or just simply the temperature of the air on your skin. So now start to just bring your attention to your sense of smell. Notice if there's any scents or smells in the room or wherever you're sitting, if you're outside, or just notice what that smells like. Take a nice deep breath in. Just to notice the subtlety of all the fragrances that are surrounding you. Now, begin to listen. Listen with your ears. Listen to all the sounds that are around you. But see if you can listen without making a story about what you hear. See if you can just simply listen without concluding, without the story meaning anything. Like you'd listen to a bird or a piece of music you've never heard before. Just listening to find out. Now, from that space of listening, see if you can't come into even a more rich and sincere state of listening with a sense of attentiveness. Listening with a sort of effortless effort. What I mean by that is that's just enough effort to be present and aware, geolocated, but not so much effort as to make any kind of story out of what you're hearing or the sensory input that's coming in through your perception of your senses. This body is an apparatus for experiencing life. It's an instrument that just takes in the data of experience from all of your senses. So all this thing is, it's just one big instrument apparatus of experience. Begin to play with the notion of what it means to just stop. And when I say just stop, I'm not talking about stopping the sensory input that's coming in, because that's just the naturalness of being in a body. But the stopping I'm speaking of is rather a stopping of the mental activity that's the result of the story about this sensory input. Just stopping often appears almost more like an erosion of the activity of self. It's a declutching of our constant stream of thought. There's like a relaxation you can just overtake you as the activity of your mind starts to settle down. Your thinking begins to slow. You begin to see that there's gaps and spaces in between your thoughts. It's not just this constant stream of blah, blah, blah. As your experience begins to slow more, you'll find there's an incredible spaciousness in those in-between places, in between those thoughts. See if you can just sit there for a second. Now, see if you can just get a feel of what it feels like to be present in your body right here. So rather than this being an intellectual experience that's happening in your head, see if you can't have a physical experience that's happening in your body. again, just see if you can let go. Sink into that spacious emptiness between your thoughts. And those gaps that are huge. They're huge and dynamic and big. But if your mind starts to rebel and wants to go into a state of confusion or how to, or what do I do, just stop. Just simply stop. Stopping is a form of surrender. I mean, surrender sort of still implies that there's a you that's doing something, but a stopping is kind of further than that. It's the cessation of activity or action. It's that state of just absolutely letting go. It's the ending of doing, a relinquishing of any striving or efforting. Just stop. When you find yourself here in this space, you can just let go further. For me, what I notice is the foreground of me and my thoughts and the activity of me, right? What happens for me is that just settles down. That foreground becomes the background. And then what was the background was always there, right? Just that sort of silence and stillness, spaciousness, that suddenly becomes my foreground. You know, what I've come to realize in this practice is that's who I've always been. My entire life is that sense of stillness, quietness. Unless my attention gets drawn into a thought that's produced by this thing called a self. So begin to explore what the experience of presence, stillness, the real you actually feels like. What does it feel like in your body? Not what does it think like in your mind, but what does it feel like? You know, at the beginning of this meditation, I think I said this is going to be an exploration into what happens or what occurs when all the activity of you just stops. That's all this is. It's just an exploration, an invitation into looking at who you really are. Funny thing is, I've found that stillness and silence is always there. It's ever present, always waiting for me to bring my attention back to this place. I like to call this place home. It's our natural state. Okay, bring ourselves back here into the space of the room that we're sitting. And just see if you can sort of feel what it feels like to just be stopped. And then all of a sudden, the activity of you starts up again, and your attention starts draws in. See if you can feel that. Now, as you go throughout your day and you realize that attention, that sort of gathering of psychic energy, how when it sort of overdoes itself and becomes this kinetic sense of worry or anxiety or stress, just remember, the only thing that you need to do is just stop. The more you practice this teaching, the more it will just become a working and effective part of your daily spiritual experience. I will say it is a practice. There has to be attention placed on the practice. Eckhart Tolle, one time I saw him, he talked about the definition of the word mindfulness. He says, I can't stand that word mindfulness. He says it just implies full of mind, and that's not what we're doing here. He says, but I understand if you need to use that word, the definition that I use for it is just paying attention to where your attention goes. Right? So there's all this practice. It's just simply paying attention to where our attention is. So if our attention is on stillness and silence, that's where it is. If our attention is on stress and anxiety, that's where it is. If that stress and anxiety is causing us discomfort, what do we have to do? If you want, you can let it go. If you don't want, you can get more stressed out. But I promise, it'll only take you a few moments to get right back to stopped after you've worked the practice for a bit. So, inhale the world around you. Bring your consciousness back into this room. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. Put a little smile on your face. Give some gratitude to whatever your own conception of the divine is. Thanking the divine for this opportunity, presence. Open your eyes and have a look at the world and the people around you from this space of stillness, from this space of stopness. Have a great day, a great night. Just remember, whenever you need to, just stop. Thank you.